Okay. Are we live now? I feel like we are. Welcome, one, welcome all. We are going to attempt to redo all of these VFR skills tests from FS Academy. It has been ages since I've touched the sim. Recently got back into it and really wanted to brush up. Hi, Emma. Hello, hello. We're going to try and excuse me. We're going to try and get ourselves in the air and on the ground safely in all these tests and hopefully follow the instructions to the best of our abilities while maintaining control of the airplane. I'm going to redo. I'm going to start from square one and go to square wherever we end off for this episode, just because it seems better. Like if someone's looking for the video, then we will start off at square one and go until square 10 or 11. But here we go. Welcome to Flightsim Academy, episode 1, lesson 1, where we're going to fly the Cessna 152 in a basic VFR training program, where it's just going to fly us off the outskirts of somewhere in London or in England. We were in Liverpool, if I remember. Liverpool, yeah. So here we are. Welcome
to FS Academy VFR. VFR is Visual Flight Rules, where your primary method of navigation is all about looking out of the windscreen and finding your way. Each lesson has a dedicated section in the manual that dives deeper into the theory to complete your VFR experience, along with maps and charts to reference in flight. We begin here at Liverpool Airport in the Cessna 152 to start you off with basic handling skills and a departure with ATC. We're going to take off from runway 27 and follow the local procedure of following the Mersey River to Seaforth, where we leave the Liverpool control zone. For a normal takeoff, we want to use flaps, which make the wing more effective and reduces our takeoff distance. Please set the flaps to 10 and we'll get started.
Set flaps to 10. So we look down here, there's a little flaps button. I actually have a button strapped to my controls, so we go like this. Flaps go down.
Airport weather is transmitted by the
Flaps are down.
ATIS, the Automated Terminal Information Service.
Is he really
Weather
loud?
changes as the day goes on, so each weather report is given an identifying letter, which moves along the alphabet every time a new report is transmitted.
Better?
Let's listen to the ATIS whilst we wait for the engine to warm up.
Liverpool Information Juliet, time 09500, runway in use 27, surface wind 260, 4 knots, visibility 10 km or more, clouds scattered 3,000 feet, cloud type unknown.
I love how we can't understand a word he's saying.
+4, QNH 1013. Ground movement control is closed. Acknowledge receipt of information Juliet on first contact.
We now have weather information Juliet, so we can call air traffic control and request our departure instructions. Liverpool Tower, Golf, Foxtrot, Sierra, Alpha Charlie, Cessna 152 at Kilo with information Juliet, request clearance and taxi.
That should sound better, right?
Golf Alpha Charlie, Liverpool Tower, after departure leave the zone at Seaforth, not above altitude 1,500 feet VFR, squawk 5050.
Leave via Seaforth, not above 1,500 feet VFR, 5050 Golf Alpha Charlie.
Golf Alpha Charlie correct, taxi to hold short runway 27 at Golf, QNH 1013.
Okay, so we've contacted the tower and they've said we can leave the control zone to the north at our exit point Seaforth, but we must stay below 1,500 feet the whole way there. We'll aim for 1,400 feet to give a margin. Release the brakes and taxi to the holding point Golf for runway 27.
Alright, so we're going to slap the plane about 1,000 RPM, let go of the brakes, and let her roll off. So we're going behind us. This is going to be hard to talk when I...
Leave the apron by taking the taxiway on your left, then make a left turn onto Alpha, the main parallel taxiway, before taking the first right to hold short of the runway.
Oh, wait, I just tried to turn with my hands. You can't do that. We'll slow down a little bit, make sure we don't overshoot the turn.
Take this right and hold at Golf. Good, now come to a stop before the holding line and we'll tell ATC we're ready to go. We say ready for departure as we only use the word takeoff as part of an actual takeoff clearance to avoid misunderstandings.
You use your
Golf
feet
Alpha Charlie ready for departure.
to steer.
Golf Alpha
With the
Charlie
rudder.
cleared line up and take off runway 27, wind 260 at 4.
Cleared line up and take off runway 27 Golf Alpha Charlie. We're cleared for takeoff. Pull onto the runway, line up on the center line and we'll depart.
So, the way that your feet work is the air over the airplane from the propeller. Let's see if we can... is blowing over that fan and the blade in the back. And by moving this blade, you can steer the aircraft right or left using your feet. Whereas if you turn this thing, it doesn't do anything. Granted, you always allegedly you keep your controls into the wind all the time. So if you do have a cross breeze, you would sit there and hold your.
Keep the nose straight down the center line and apply full power.
All right, find the center line and rip the throttle.
Use some right rudder to counteract the engine torque to keep straight on the center line.
So crazy. It's quite the process.
Smoothly pull back and raise the nose, engine cowling on the horizon.
Alright, so 65 knots, we'll pull up, and the plane should just leave the ground. Just like so. Stay along the runway heading. And we're climbing to 1,400 feet.
But now hold the climb attitude and keep climbing straight ahead. Now we're safely climbing away, we don't need our flaps anymore. Please retract the flaps and we'll climb more efficiently.
We have liftoff.
See how the nose drops as we lose lift? Add some back pressure on the controls to hold the climb attitude. Accelerate to 80 knots and we'll get the lift back. Great, keep full power and adjust the attitude to control your speed. Aim for 80 knots. If you get slow, lower the nose slightly. If you get fast, raise the nose slightly. Now turn right to follow the Mersey River northbound. Continue flying up the Mersey, climbing to 1,400 feet. Try to memorize this climbing attitude.
So we're trying to maintain 80 knots, which is the dial on our far left, top left, while climbing at around 500 feet per minute.
Level off 1,400 feet, keeping full power to accelerate to 100 knots. As our increased airspeed gives more lift, feel how you need to push forwards to remain level. To relieve this input, trim nose down until you don't need to apply any control force to stay straight and level. Now you can power back a little to hold 100 knots. Maintain 1,400 feet up the Mersey, staying over the water.
So now we're just going to try and trim. So what we're doing is trying to keep that bar nice and close. Or at zero. Close to zero as we can keep it. But we also want to be flying visually. So by looking at the horizon, where the engine cowling sits on the horizon, you memorize that distance. You can just sit there and feather the yoke. Nice and simple. So far. We've crept up a little bit in
Golf Alpha
altitude.
Charlie, contact Liverpool radar 119.85.
11985 Golf Alpha Charlie. We're being handed over to Liverpool Approach Control now, who we'll be in contact with until we leave controlled airspace at Seaforth. Liverpool radar Golf Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie, live buildings 1,400 feet to Seaforth VFR.
Golf Alpha Charlie, roger, report Seaforth.
Wilco Golf Alpha Charlie. Seaforth is the exit point for VFR traffic departing Liverpool to the north. It's found on the east shoreline, just beyond where the western shoreline ends.
I find if you sit there and you try and chase the needle, it's a lot harder to fly straight and level without instruments, like autopilot. Right, if we sit here and we stare, you look down here, right, trying to keep yourself, trying to keep, trying to keep that needle. It's a lot of work, right?
Now we need to maintain 1,400 feet.
So now we gotta lower ourselves back down. And now we go back to staring at the horizon. Just like driving a car. Look where you want to go and you'll go. I believe that concludes lesson 1.
Golf Alpha Charlie, Seaforth outbound. Request basic service.
Golf Alpha Charlie, roger, basic service.
Basic service, Golf Alpha Charlie. Now we've reached the edge of the Liverpool control zone at 1,400 feet. We're entering uncontrolled airspace. There is airspace above us, which begins at 3,500 feet upwards, so anything below that is uncontrolled. It's completely up to us to navigate and avoid other traffic. UK ATC can provide either a basic service or a traffic service to VFR flights in uncontrolled airspace. We've been given a basic service from ATC, which means they can pass us important information such as airfield closures or severe weather, but won't provide any clearances or traffic information. Depending on their workload, they may be able to provide a traffic service, where they will also give information about any known nearby traffic to help you, but will not provide avoidance instructions. Keep flying north, and as you did before, apply full power, set the climb attitude, and climb to 3,000 feet.
And now we go up.
The speed will come back towards around 80 knots, so with the lower speed we lose lift and the nose will want to drop. Apply nose up trim to neutralise the control pressure, holding the climb attitude all the time.
Hey, look at that. We got it trimmed, kinda. It's climbing and I'm not touching the stick. Oh ho ho ho. Been struggling with trim all day. Yeah, this is almost like having autopilot. We can look around, we can look at the things. Oh, we're turning. We're going to 3,000 feet. Got a nice steady climb going. 85, 90 knots. Probably not the best for climb performance. I'm just under pressure, Emma. That's all it is. And as we near our altitude, we will round off. As he's gonna tell me the exact same thing.
Start leveling off and
Yep.
maintain 3,000 feet. Accelerate again to 100 knots.
Oh, we leveled off way too early.
Again, as we accelerate, trim nose down to cancel out the control pressure.
No, I don't want to climb.
As we're now higher up, the air is thinner, so to preserve the optimal fuel-to-air ratio of the engine, we'll reduce the fuel mixture slightly. Use the red mixture control next to the throttle and pull it back only about a centimetre or so, and see how the engine revs rise as the engine is running more efficiently.
Little red knob comes out. That sounds like it's struggling a little less.
Let's try a few turns. We only want to bank to about 20 degrees for a gentle turn, which is the second white mark around the top of the attitude indicator. Start a right turn towards east, heading 090.
Keep the attitude the same and just roll the nose over slightly, watching ever so often, checking our compass to make sure that we are flying in the right
Stop
direction.
your turn on 090 and set the straight and level attitude again.
Oh, we want 3,000 feet, that's all we need. Got some haze to our right.
When turning, use gentle rudder inputs to keep the black ball on the turn coordinator centered for comfortable and efficient turning. Make a coordinated right turn to west, heading 270, keeping the ball centered.
Right turn. This ain't too bad. We're doing all right. Now
As
we
we
start.
turn, the lift from our wings isn't pointing straight upwards anymore, so to stay at our altitude, we need to increase the angle of attack slightly to get some extra lift. You can feel this as the need to hold back pressure on the elevator.
I would say we're doing all right.
Roll out on heading west and set us back to straight and level.
Oh, we gained a whole 100 feet. Elevator, that's what makes you go up and down.
Maintain a heading of west for the time being.
That's the control surface at the back of the
Next,
airplane.
we'll try a speed change to see how it influences our straight and level sight picture. Bring the power right back to idle and decelerate to 60 knots.
Alright, let's get ourselves back to 1,000 feet here. 3,000 feet. Alright. Now we're going to pull back the power to 60 knots. That's like a crawl. That's almost landing speed. So in order to keep ourselves there, we got to keep the nose way up. Keep yourself level.
As we lose lift, trim nose up to keep the control pressures neutralized. You'll need to raise the nose slightly to increase our angle of attack to make up for the lost airspeed. Maintain a heading of west for the time being. Set power for 60 knots and retrim for level flight. See that our new straight and level attitude has a higher nose. This is our slow flight attitude.
Oh, we almost got it trimmed out too.
Now make a turn either to the left or the right, back to heading 090, keeping the ball centered.
Let's go left this time. Going a little fast.
Now accelerate us back to 100 knots, keeping straight and level throughout. Use some right rudder to counter the engine forces.
Oh, that's a lot of focus. That's a lot of focus just to keep. Oh, we climbed again. Oh, we're still climbing.
Fantastic. That concludes your first VFR lesson.
Oh, that's a lot of nose down trim. Hey! For some reason, it doesn't give me a score anymore. but we're just gonna judge. If we're really, really bad, we'll redo it. If we're all right, we'll basically we're on the honor system here. We'll self-evaluate as we go. All right, we're doing the approach next. 10 out of 10. I give myself a 7.5 out of 10. If you're flying in the VATSIM network, or if you're flying in real life, you get a deviation of maybe 100 feet. And maybe, what is it, like 10 or 20 knots? So us bobbing up and down those 100 feet. And this is supposed to be IFR or VFR. I can't see anything. Hello?
Welcome back. We're to the northwest of Liverpool, this time to look at descending, approach and landing. We're flying straight and level in uncontrolled airspace at 100 knots. Maintain heading 090 and slow to 60 knots, keeping altitude 2,400 feet.
2,400 feet at 60 knots.
Staying level at 2,400 feet, set flaps to 10 and see how the picture changes. Hold an altitude of 2,400 feet.
Sorry, Jimbo.
Hold your speed at 60 knots.
So now the flaps come in and the nose
Maintaining
wants to pop up.
2,400 feet, see how the nose is lower as the flaps have made the wing more effective. Flaps add both lift and drag, so you need a little extra power to hold your speed. Now set flaps to 20 and see what changes.
Got some more lift. And we need more power.
Now accelerate to 80 knots.
I guess that's gonna be like full throttle with flaps.
Keep a heading of east for now.
Oh, my bad, Jimbo. What's your new name?
Now keep 80 knots and start a slow descent, only going down at about 400 feet per minute. Keep descending at 80 knots and 400 feet per minute. This is how we'll fly down the initial part of the approach. Now please maintain your rate of descent and extend full flaps. Now that we've got full flaps, we have more lift and drag. Set and maintain a speed of 60 knots.
And we'll pull it back.
Good. Now holding 60 knots and a slow descent of 300 to 400 feet per minute. This is how we'd fly the end of the approach as we get close to landing. Get used to this attitude and power setting and keep descending further. So this is how things would look as we come into land. But if things don't go well, we perform a go-around, where we apply full power and pitch up to start a climb. Make sure not to do this too aggressively, however.
Don't just reef on everything. That's how things go boom. Could use a little bit of back, but I know he's gonna yell go around any second now. Otherwise I would put a little bit of back trim into it.
Let's practice a go-around. Set full power now and set the climb attitude. Use some right rudder to stay straight and keep climbing. Set flaps to 20. Set the flaps to 10. Finally, retract the flaps completely. Good. Climb to 1,400 feet and get yourself straight and level at 100 knots. Trim nose down to ease the control pressure as you stabilise at 100 knots with a straight and level attitude. Now we'll head back to Liverpool and try a zone entry, approach and landing. Liverpool Golf Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie, request
Whoa.
VFR rejoin at Kirby.
Golf Alpha Charlie Liverpool radar, clear to enter controlled airspace at Kirby, not above 1,500 feet VFR. Squawk 5052, clearance limit, car factory.
Clear to enter, not above 1,500 feet VFR to car factory 5052 Golf Alpha Charlie. Turn right heading south. We're now looking to route to the car factory VRP, located just north of the airport. Now continue south into the Liverpool control zone, and you'll soon begin to see the factory as a large flat industrial building near to the airport. Visual reference points, VRPs, are local landmarks that give points of reference to VFR flights to easily communicate their positions. Chosen for their standout features, VRPs are shown on VFR maps. ATC assigned us a squawk code, which is entered into the transponder to label us on the ATC radar screen.
Alright, we're doing okay. I'm really struggling with trim. I need to figure out how to trim properly. Right now we seem to be okay. I'm not touching anything. We are about
On our
200
way back,
feet
let's
too low.
talk about the aiming point. Once established on the approach, we pick a spot on the runway and try to lock that point in the same place on our windscreen all the way down. It could be runway numbers, a touchdown marking, or something else. Continue on this heading of south and you should be able to see the car factory soon.
I can see the marker that says car factory. That's got to be good enough, right? Hey, don't drop. Need to climb. Ever so slightly, we need to keep climbing. We're going way too fast. Alright, this is where we want to be for altitude. We'll bring back the speed a little bit. Alright, alright, alright. A little better. Been exactly 100. Use a little bit more back pressure from
Golf Alpha Charlie, contact Liverpool Tower 126.355.
126.355.
126.355 Golf Alpha Charlie. We'll report to ATC that we've reached our clearance limit at the car factory VRP. Golf Alpha Charlie, car factory.
Golf Alpha Charlie, make right orbit for traffic, call complete.
Right orbit, Wilco, Golf Alpha Charlie. Start a 360 turn, known as an orbit, to the right as instructed by ATC.
Oh, don't drop though. Ooh, that was almost really bad. Keep the
The
nose up.
landing attitude will be just like what we saw earlier, which we used to fly down towards our aiming point. As we cross the runway threshold, move your gaze to the far end of the runway and then use peripheral vision to judge your height. Then we'll pull the power back and raise the nose to the flare attitude, which is just enough to reduce your rate of descent and touch down on the main gear first. Then we'll smoothly allow the nose wheel to land and let your speed fall off with the power still at idle.
I let the nose drop again.
Golf Alpha Charlie, orbit complete.
Golf Alpha Charlie, enter right downwind, runway 27, number 1.
Right downwind, runway 27, Golf Alpha Charlie. Make a left turn here to fly heading 090, parallel to the runway. Descend down to 1,100 feet.
So our orbit was not good because we popped out way far away from the airport. Like, we should have been, like, we're already approaching a base.
Keep flying parallel at 1,100 feet until the runway threshold appears at a 45-degree angle behind you, over your right shoulder. I'll let you know when to turn. Looking over your right shoulder, the threshold of the landing runway seems to be about 45 degrees behind us. Now's a good time to make our right-hand turn to start lining up with the runway. Start a gentle descent and start slowing to 80 knots.
Gentle
Once your speed is
descent.
down to within the white arc, take flaps 10 and hold 80 knots. We're in the white arc now, so set flaps to 10. Hold the speed of 80 knots with a gradual descent. Now take flaps 20, speed still at 80 knots. We're looking for a speed of 80 knots on the base turn.
Oh, come on. I know you are, but I'm also about to blow past the... As we just full throttle it for a sec here. Little nose down. Can we get our turn on final, please? I'll show you how we do in orbit now.
Golf Alpha Charlie, cleared to land, runway 27, wind 250 at 4 knots.
Cleared land runway 27, Golf Alpha Charlie. Okay, we're cleared to land. Finally take flaps full and slow to 60 knots.
All right, so don't do that. Because we goofed the orbit and we didn't do it tight enough, we drifted. All right, so now we got the PAPI lights out there. That's going to tell us it's 2 white, 2 red means you're right on. 2 more reds means you're closer to dead. And more white means, well, you're gonna fly right over the top. They give us wind on our introductory flight? At least let us grease the landing.
Power to idle and set the flare attitude.
Oh, we just thumped. Everything still intact? Oh,
Stay on the centre line as you decelerate, then vacate at the first exit on your right.
Golf Alpha Charlie taxi via Alpha and link Kilo.
Alpha and Kilo, thank you, Golf Alpha Charlie.
oh, we're on the ground. We completed it. It just gave us.
Now we're vacated, after landing checks, flaps up, transponder to standby. Well done, so we've looked at re-entering the control zone, entering the circuit and making an approach and landing. We'll move on to focusing on the circuit pattern.
Oh. That was either a pass. That was definitely a fail. Oh, gotta give myself a stretch here. What does the logbook tell me? All right, next one. Circuits. This is what I do for fun. So hopefully we can do decently. Although I'm not a fan. I like the low wing, but I'm not a fan of how this thing is in kilometers.
For Lesson 3, we start with a new aircraft and a new location, the Robin DR400 and Tauranga in New Zealand. We're not going to land just yet, so maintain circuit altitude of 1,000 feet and fly overhead the runway, tracking the centre line. The circuit pattern is the way VFR flights are organised when circling an airfield. A series of left-hand 90-degree turns takes us around the circuit in a rectangle shape. The basic circuit is the same everywhere for consistency, although terrain or airspace limitations may require a right-hand circuit to be made, which will be noted on the charts. There are 4 sides to the rectangle which are named. If we were landing now, this would be the final leg. Once beyond the far end of the runway, we'll make a left turn onto the crosswind leg. Another 90-degree left turn would then take us onto the downwind leg, where we fly parallel to the runway at the circuit altitude of 1,000 feet above the airfield elevation. Once we reach the end of that downwind leg, seen once the landing threshold appears at a 45-degree angle behind you, we make a third left turn onto the base leg and start to descend and decelerate. Judging visually, we then make our final turn onto the final leg, where we're lined up to land. Make a left turn now onto the crosswind leg. Roll out on a heading of 160 to fly the crosswind leg. Now make another left turn onto downwind. Roll out on heading 070 to parallel the runway. We'll do our downwind checks. Brakes are pressured but released, undercarriage is fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient, indications are in the green, and security seatbelts are fastened, doors are closed. Foxtrot Sierra Alpha downwind for touch and go.
Foxtrot Sierra Alpha number 1, report final.
Wilco Foxtrot Sierra Alpha.
We got some bumps.
Now make another left turn, power back and start a gentle descent. Decelerate to 80 knots. Now we're in the white airspeed band, extend the first stage of flaps, set power and trim for 80 knots. Now turn left and align yourself on the runway centre line. Take full flaps and speed 60 knots. Foxtrot Sierra Alpha turning final.
Foxtrot Sierra Alpha cleared touch and go runway 25, wind 260 at 8.
Cleared touch and go runway 25, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha. Select an aiming point and lock it into place, not allowing it to move up or down in the windscreen. Set power and trim for 60 knots. After touchdown, stay on the centre line, set takeoff flaps and full power for a touch and go.
Pretty sure there's a plane in front of me that's about to land with us.
Now look to the far end of the runway, power to idle, set the flare attitude, touching down with the main wheels.
Ooh, butter, baby. I felt a lot better.
Maintain the centre line and set takeoff flaps. Now apply full power with some right rudder for the engine torque.
That circuit also felt really good. Like we
Now
had
raise the nose to the takeoff attitude.
a lot of places where we could. Like we were in the right place at the right time. Why does it want to dive into the dirt?
Keep full power and the climbing attitude. Keep the right rudder in whilst climbing on the runway heading.
And we climb.
We're passing 300 feet above airfield level, so retract the flaps. Once above 500 feet, turn left onto the crosswind leg, climbing to 1,000 feet. There's 500 feet above airfield level, so make your left turn onto crosswind. Roll out heading 160 and climb back up to the circuit altitude of 1,000 feet.
Looking decent.
Level off at 1,000 feet and start your left turn onto downwind. Accelerate to about 90 knots. downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient, engines in the green and secure. Foxtrot Sierra Alpha downwind 25 for low approach and overshoot.
Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Roger, your number 1, cleared low approach and overshoot runway 25.
Cleared low approach and overshoot runway 25, next circuit request low level, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha.
Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Roger, next circuit low level approved.
Keep it eyes up. Gotta keep the eyes up.
Make the left base turn here, power back to 80 knots and start a descent. We're going to do a missed approach this time. Speeds in the white band, first stage of flaps and power for 80 knots. Make the final turn, take landing flaps, power for 60 knots. Keep the aiming point locked in the windscreen and I'll say when to initiate a go around.
Aye, aye, Captain. Keeping eyes forward.
Go around, full power and set the climb attitude. Hold the climb attitude and set takeoff flaps.
Done like
Use
dinner,
right
bud.
rudder to keep straight and climb to just 500 feet. We'll make a low-level circuit this time, still with left-hand turns. Keep the flaps set as they are. Maintain 500 feet and make a left turn to crosswind. We'll make a low-level circuit, which will be tighter than before. Now make another left turn onto our tighter downwind leg. Keep a speed of about 80 knots. Keep altitude 500 feet for the low-level circuit. Downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient, engines in the green, and secure with seatbelts fastened. Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, low-level downwind, runway 25 for full stop.
Foxtrot Sierra Alpha cleared to land runway 25, wind 260 at 7 knots.
Cleared land runway 25, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha. Even though we're lower and closer in, we keep the same references, so we'll again make our turn when the runway is 45 degrees behind us. As we're closer to the runway, we'll make a continuous base turn onto final, keeping our altitude until halfway around the base turn. That's about the right spot, so make a continuous left turn, holding 500 feet initially, speed 80 knots. Keep the turn going, take full flaps and power for 60 knots. We're going to land off of this approach.
Alright, let's see if we can get this one better.
Power off, flare attitude.
Oh, we floated it just a bit, but that felt good. I'm happier with that. That was like one of my better circuits that we've done. My wrist is killing me though.
Keep the centre line and allow the speed to come back on its own without braking. The exit is a little way further down the runway.
Whew. Let's go.
Take the runway exit coming up on the right.
Hey.
Great, that's your first introduction to circuits complete.
Not too bad, eh guys? Right. I would say we didn't do half bad there. Like that should have at least got us a score if they were keeping score. Now this local flight one, this one gets me every time. We have a little document that I like to keep up when I'm doing this one, just to remember exactly what it is this guy's looking for, because he's looking for some weird stuff. Like remembering the join, and then I'm basically doing over the dead side, over the runway again, to join the crosswind, the downwind, the base, and then final. Oh yeah, and it's grass runways.
You join us in the Robin as we're backtracking runway 32 at Thames on the New Zealand's North Island. Keep taxiing towards the end of the runway. We're going to conduct a full VFR flight completely in uncontrolled Class G airspace. To begin, we'll depart Thames via the circuit and start heading southeast.
Oh, we are rocking
Now
along.
slow to a walking pace and make a 180 turn to line up.
Although you're short, your grass field, you want to keep power in
Align
it.
yourself in the centre of the grass runway and come to a stop.
All right, that's our stop.
There's no ATC here at Thames, so we'll broadcast what we're doing on the local traffic frequency. Thames traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, taking off runway 32, Thames. Now set full power and take off from runway 32.
All right, full power with brakes. A little bit of flaps. Let the nose up. Right rudder.
Raise the nose to the climb attitude. Hold the climb attitude and fly straight ahead initially. We'll join a left circuit after takeoff. Right rudder to keep the ball centered.
A little breezy.
300 feet above airfield level, flaps up. We're passing 500 feet, so make a left turn to the crosswind leg, climbing to 1,000 feet circuit altitude.
We're looking good.
Level off at 1,000 feet and turn left onto downwind, heading 140. Thames traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha downwind runway 32, leaving southbound Thames. We're on the downwind leg of the circuit. We're going to carry on straight ahead and begin our local flight and climb higher once we've left the circuit area. Maintain the circuit altitude of 1,000 feet for now.
I'm sorry, dude.
Now we've left the circuit to the south, climb straight ahead to 2,500 feet on heading 140. Keeping the Waihu River on your left, we're aiming for Te Aroha, which is the town just at the base of the tallest part of the ridgeline up ahead.
Climbing, climbing. Oh, this is quite the climb. Level off and maintain 2,500 feet, accelerate to cruising speed of about 100 knots. One second, chat.
Set power to hold 100 knots and make sure you're trimmed out.
Come on, we gotta get the nose a little lower.
Lean the mixture slightly if you haven't already. already, to make the engine's fuel-to-air ratio more efficient, you may need to reduce power and retrim afterwards.
Alright. Engine sounds good.
We're now flying visually in uncontrolled airspace. At this altitude, we don't need to account for any cruising level restrictions, and we can simply remain clear of cloud. We can see the river starting to bend away to the left, set a heading of 150, pointing us between the dark marshland we see on the right and the high ground on the left. Once cruising VFR, make sure to keep a good lookout the whole time. We're in uncontrolled airspace below 3,000 feet, so anyone can be flying around in any direction and at any altitude, even without a radio. If we were to climb above 3,000 feet, we'd need to fly at a VFR cruising level. Heading east, we'd go for an odd altitude plus 500 feet, such as 3,500 feet. Traffic heading west would be at an even altitude plus 500, giving us some separation. Above 3,000 feet, we also need to have a minimum cloud separation of 1,500 meters laterally and 1,000 feet vertically. This is instead of simply staying out of the cloud and remaining in sight of the ground, as we're doing here at 2,500 feet.
This is beautiful. It's tricky. Like me and my trim, man. One of these days we'll figure out how it works.
If you look to the left, you'll see the town of Pyaroa, and just beyond that a gap in the ridgeline called the Waihi Gap. Watch for traffic going in or out of there and continue heading 150.
Like, why does it want to keep climbing? We haven't changed speed, we haven't changed... There it is. Not touching nothing. Feels so nice to fly when it's all trimmed out. I'm not sure this is VFR conditions though. Mr. Flight Instructor. We have a bit of an updraft from the mountain next to us. I'm focusing way too hard on this. But we're doing all right. Bombing along.
See the highest peak on the left side? That's Tiaraha town just below it. Take us overhead to Tiaraha. When flying VFR, there are minimum altitudes that come into play. Unless we're taking off or landing, the rules are that we can't get any lower than 500 feet above the ground or any person, vehicle, building, etc. That minimum becomes 1,000 feet if crossing a built-up area such as a town like Tiaraha. For really big towns and cities, another rule comes into play, which is the glide clear rule. This means that we must always be able to glide beyond any built-up area and be able to land in a safe place in the event of an emergency, such as an engine failure.
Should we test that right now, my
It
man?
also applies once we start heading out over water. You have to be able to glide back to solid ground for a landing, which limits how far off the coast we can go in this kind of aircraft. We're going to carry on ahead towards Tiaraha before heading towards our next airfield, Matamata.
I'm gonna drink some water. A little breezy. Gotta get that nose up a little bit. Pretty. We'll give it that. I do like the low wing plane. Like, you can't see what's beneath you, but at least you can see what's around you. Whoops.
You've reached Tiaraha, so now carry on ahead for a short distance, keeping the ridgeline to your left.
We made it.
As we get closer to the ridgeline, become mindful of turbulence. If the wind is strong and is coming from the other side of a ridge, you can find severe downdrafts, so always give high ground some extra space when downwind of it. If you look to your right at about 1 o'clock, see the long straight road? Turn to heading 160 and follow the road, keeping it on your left. Follow this straight road and it'll take us towards Matamata Airfield. The road is an example of a line feature. Line features such as roads and railways are great for following, but if crossing over them, be mindful that they don't give precise lateral guidance unless there's a standout feature, such as a junction or a town. When following a line feature, keep it on your left side, as this makes it easier to see from your seat. Traffic following the line in the other direction should also be doing this, giving you some separation.
Cool, now we're following a road. Alright, so we've established we can kind of fly in a straight line. And now we're going to have to land somewhere just off of the nose to the right.
We're going to enter the circuit at Matamata. Although it's uncontrolled, we still use our radio to broadcast our position and intentions and listen for other traffic. To enter an uncontrolled circuit, we use the standard overhead join, which has us arrive overhead the airfield at circuit altitude plus 500 feet, looking down onto the airfield to observe the runways and look for any other aircraft. The live side of a circuit is where the circuit pattern is. The dead side is the other side of the runway, which is where we do any descending down to circuit altitude. The road we're following kinks off to the left, but we're going to keep heading 160 as it takes us straight towards Matamata. Start descending to 1,700 feet.
Going down.
Keep a heading of 160 to track the straight road. We make a radio call before we reach the overhead to give advance notice to any other aircraft in the circuit. Matamata traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, 1,700 feet from the north for overhead join at Matamata. Looking just left of the nose, you can begin to pick out the wide grass runway of Matamata, with the white buildings to the western end. We're going to use runway 28, making a right-hand circuit for training. Maintain 1,700 feet and turn left slightly to fly over the runway 28 threshold, about heading 130.
Nose up. Fly it straight. We're gonna come over. Nobody appears to be in the pattern.
When nearing the runway 28 threshold, start a right-hand turn and I'll call overhead. Matamata traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, overhead for runway 28, Matamata. Now we're crossing the runway, we're entering the dead side. Start descending to circuit altitude, 1,200 feet, and turn right to cross over the upwind end of runway 28, near the white buildings. Matamata, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, descending dead side 28, Matamata. Keep the turn going towards heading 010 and aim to cross the upwind end at circuit altitude 1,200 feet.
Excuse me, we've gone too low. And that's the runway that we're trying to turn over.
Now we're crossing the upwind end, we should be 1,200 feet and about heading 010 as we enter the live side. Now make the right turn onto right downwind, heading 100, maintaining 1,200. Matamata, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, right downwind 28 to land, Matamata. Downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixtures full rich, fuel on and sufficient, instrumentations T's and P's are in the green, and cabin secure. Notice how it's a little harder to see on a right-hand circuit. This is why they're typically made to the left. We want 1,200 feet until the base turn. Downwind for 28 is heading 100. runway looks about 45 degrees over your right shoulder, so make your right descending turn onto base, slowing to 80 knots. Once inside the white airspeed band, take first stage of flap and hold 80 knots on base. Matamata's runway 28 is grass and unmarked. It also has unusual dimensions, being about triple the width of a normal runway, at 137 meters wide. Make your own turn onto final and judge your approach with this in mind.
There it is.
Matamata, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, final 28 for full stop, Matamata. Bring the speed back to about 60 knots and take landing flap. We'll make a full stop landing. As this grass runway is unmarked, choose an aiming point roughly where you'd expect to find the runway numbers and keep that locked in your windscreen. The wideness of this runway will give the illusion of being low, so try to account for this.
This landing on a grass runway thing. Rather trippy. Gotta remember to keep the nose up. You really gotta grease these things, otherwise you get stuck or you bounce funny.
Power back and flare attitude, look to the far end.
Ooh, that felt decent. All right.
Great, we've flown from airfield to airfield with some navigation in between and made an overhead join to join a right-hand circuit.
Oh, that landing felt good. Finding the runway was a little bit sketchy. I was really worried that I was going to lose it. Well, on to the next one. Nighttime VFR. This ought to be interesting. You guys are seeing this as a VOD and you like what you're seeing and you want to see more, maybe you guys want to help give some tips, comment down below, like the video, maybe even subscribe to the channel. Let's see if we can't make this into a real thing. I'm loving Flightsim. I want to get way deeper into it. My goal is to fly in VATSIM and be proficient. So let's see if we can get there. But first we gotta learn the basics, right?
Flying VFR at night has some pros and cons, with some differences that you should be aware of. Conditions at night are generally better than in the day, with smooth air, lighter winds, and improved visibility. Lit runways and other traffic are easier to see. On the other hand, your visual references are restricted, with less ground features visible for navigation and often the absence of a clear horizon. Follow this taxiway all the way to the full-length holding point for runway 08 here at Toronto City Airport. As the light levels are so low, your night vision is important and needs protecting. White light quickly cancels your night vision, and it can take up to 30 minutes to fully restore it. Red coloured light has a much lower effect, so any torches or cabin lighting is best if it's in a reddish colour, such as the Cessna 152 dome light here. We'll depart 08 and make a right turn, and you'll quickly see how the lack of the horizon forces you to rely more heavily on your instruments.
I can't see shit. Can I change the dome light? Ah. Alright. Give it a little bit of juice. What am I doing? That looks better. A line to follow.
Cessna Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie, ready for departure, runway 08, departing circuit to the south.
Sierra Alpha Charlie Roger, cleared VFR not above 2,500 feet, cleared for takeoff runway 08, wind calm.
VFR not above 2,500 feet, cleared for takeoff, runway 08, Sierra Alpha Charlie. Take off and climb towards 2,300 feet. We'll leave the circuit to the south.
Oh, this is like focus central.
You can bring the flaps up now that we're passing 300 feet above airfield level. The climb attitude flaps up gives about 7 degrees nose up on the attitude indicator with 75 knots. Make a mental note of this for later. Now make a right turn to heading 180 and keep climbing to 2,300 feet. As we look out over Lake Ontario in the dark, see how your horizon has already pretty much vanished. Shift your focus more onto your instruments, but remember we're still VFR and need to maintain a lookout. Keep heading 180 for now.
Ontario. Sorry, mate. That's not how we say it here. This is just getting us ready for VFR or IFR flying.
Keep heading 180 for now.
I can't see much. Here, hold on. I'm gonna
Level off at 2,300 feet using the attitude indicator and VSI to set level flight. You can lead the mixture a little, set power for 100 knots and retrim. Sierra Alpha Charlie requests to leave the zone to the east en route Oshawa along the shoreline.
Sierra Alpha Charlie Roger, leave the zone not above 2,500 feet VFR, call at boundary.
Not above 2,500 feet VFR, Wilco, Sierra Alpha Charlie. We don't want to get too far out over the lake, so make a left turn to heading 020 back to the shoreline. Go easy on the controls.
I'm flying completely blind.
This heading keeps us tracking the north shore of Lake Ontario, parallel the runway, and brings back a partial horizon with the streetlights off in the distance. Try to use both the partial horizon and the instruments to set and maintain an accurate straight and level. Take us back to the shoreline. keep heading 020 to the shoreline.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if you want me to go to the waypoint or if you want me to hold the heading. Sorry, dude. Sorry, bud. Oh. Yeah, that was a challenge. I did not expect to be that dark. I got a new monitor recently and my darks are like dark.
We're back at the shoreline, so make a right turn heading 060 to follow the shore eastbound. Sierra Alpha Charlie, zone boundary outbound, request frequency change to Oshawa 120.1.
Sierra Alpha Charlie, frequency change approved.
Keep tracking the coast on heading 060 and we'll switch over to Oshawa. Hold an altitude of 2,300 feet.
I am staring too much at the gauges right now.
Hold an altitude of 2,300 feet.
I know, we're in very crowded.
Traffic is easier to see at night thanks to the position lights, strobes and landing light. The green position light is on the right wing and the red on the left. This makes deciphering the orientation easy as the colour indicates which side of the aircraft you're seeing. If you see both red and green, you're approaching head-on. If you do encounter another aircraft head-on, you both make a turn to your right to increase separation. Keep on following the shore heading 060.
This is where I grew up, chat. Literally along this lake. I believe that is the town of Oshawa. No, what is that?
If you look at 9 o'clock off the left wing, you can see up the centre line of the runway at Buttonville.
Buttonville. That's Oshawa General right there.
Looking straight ahead over the nose, we can see the flashing runway light at Oshawa Executive, which is where we're heading.
Going to exec.
Notice how airports are much easier to pick out at night if they have lit runways. Unlit grass runways can be nearly impossible to spot, however, so those airfields would only be operational during the day. I'll get the weather for Oshawa. Normally an ATIS is available, but out of hours it's an automated weather observation system, AWOS.
Oshawa Automated Weather Observation System. Observation taken at 0150 UTC. Wind 270 at 4 knots. Visibility greater than 9. Sky condition view 3000. IFR approach RNP 30. Landing and departing runway 30. Temperature 15, 2.4. Altimeter 29.92.
Alright, so we now know it's runway 30 in use with a light headwind. The altimeter is already set to 29.92. The USA and Canada report an altimeter setting instead of a QNH, which is effectively the same but using different units. QNH is reported in hectopascals and altimeter settings are inches of mercury. Altimeters allow settings from either system, as seen in our 152 with the millibar scale on the left and inches of mercury scale on the right. Canada VFR rules require 500 feet vertical separation when below cloud in uncontrolled airspace. Cloud is reported as few at 3,000 feet, so if we stick to cruising at 2,300 feet, then we know we're fine. The USA applies the same rule, but most other countries just require you to stay clear of cloud until above 3,000 feet. Keep flying us towards Oshawa, heading 060.
I love this game. It looks so good. Alright guys, we are not long out from Oshawa. This is exciting. I was literally born in that hospital. The Schwa. You gonna throw me any curveballs here, buddy?
Oshawa operates what's known as a mandatory frequency area. This means a radio is required to fly into or near the airfield. We're getting close to the Oshawa MF zone, so we'll call up and announce our position and intentions. Oshawa traffic, Cessna Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie, 10 miles southwest, 2,300 feet, inbound landing 30, Oshawa. We know from the AWOS that it's runway 30 in use, which is a normal left-hand circuit. In other ICAO countries, we'd make an overhead join, descending on the dead side before joining the crosswind leg. The USA and Canada allow joining uncontrolled circuits straight into
45
the
degrees.
downwind leg from a 45-degree intercept at circuit altitude. The elevation at Oshawa is 460 feet, so start descending now to a circuit altitude of 1,500 feet, aiming for the center of the airfield. Maintain 1,500 feet as the circuit altitude until turning base. Note that the runway lights we see up ahead is runway 05, but that's not the one currently in use. Oshawa traffic, Cessna Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie joining mid-downwind 30, Oshawa. Okay, we're reaching the downwind leg. Turn right heading 120.
I feel like we've messed something up here.
Circuit altitude is 1,500 feet. Oshawa traffic, Cessna Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie downwind 30, Oshawa. Downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient, instrument T's and P's are green, cabin is secure.
Are we left downwind or right?
Circuit altitude is 1,500 feet.
Oh, usually it's a left downwind.
Looks like a good place for turning base. Start turning left, power back and commence your descent. Take flaps 10 when within the wide airspeed band. A high-wing aeroplane such as the Cessna is great when en route, as you have a clearer view downwards towards the ground, but turning in the pattern can be a little bit more difficult. Configure the flaps and set your speed as appropriate.
Where is that runway? Way over there. I know he hasn't said landing yet. Is that 3? Yep.
Oshawa traffic, Cessna Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie, final 30 to land, Oshawa.
Oh, the lights are so bugged. I definitely flew it. The land of the lights. Game? Huh? Not sure I was in. Not sure I was a fan of that. Oh. All right, let's do a little crosswind action. Where's Sunberg? I'm ready to fly, Chad. How are you guys?
As strong winds cause controllability problems in light aircraft, we can deflect the controls to help us. The wind here at Sombra is about 270 at 15, which is within the 20 knots crosswind limit of the DA40, but still enough to need our attention on the ground and in flight. A strong crosswind blows over the upwind wing and therefore generates lift. The fuselage mostly shields the downwind wing, so this uneven lift causes a downwind banking effect. A crosswind from the right would lift the right wing and potentially have us roll to the left. Therefore, apply into-wind aileron control to counter this rolling force. A wind from the left would do the opposite, so left aileron would be used. This works with a strong crosswind from anywhere ahead of the nose. With a crosswind from behind, apply the opposite control inputs. Nose into wind, turn into wind. Nose out of wind, turn out of wind. We're pointing straight into the wind right now, so we won't apply any control input just yet. Taxi to the left and cross runway 24 to reach the holding point for runway 33. The DA40 has a castering nose wheel, so use brakes to tighten your turn. You're cleared to cross the runway, continue straight on. Now we've turned, the wind is from behind and the right. Nose is out of wind, so we turn out of wind. Apply left aileron. Come to a stop here and we'll talk about the crosswind circuit. As we move around the circuit pattern, the wind correction needed will change after each turn. Today's wind is from 270, marked by your heading bug on the HSI. Drift angle is related to your ground speed and the speed of the crosswind component. If travelling at 60 knots ground speed with a 20 knot crosswind, your drift angle will be 20 degrees. Double your ground speed to 120 knots, the drift angle will halve to 10 degrees. By applying a heading correction into wind that is equal to your drift angle, you will fly the required track. Keep your into-wind aileron inputs in whilst accelerating for takeoff, gradually reducing them towards neutral as your speed increases. Golf Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie ready for departure for circuits.
Golf Alpha Charlie cleared line up and takeoff runway 33, wind 270 at 12.
Clear for takeoff runway 33, Golf Alpha Charlie. During the takeoff, apply left aileron, expect the nose to yaw into wind once the nose wheel lifts. The nose is weathercocked into wind, but we're still tracking the centre line as the result of wind drift. Pitch for about 70 knots to get a good climb rate. There are obstacles and hills near to the runway. Flaps up. Make a left turn to the crosswind leg, heading 245. Level off at 1,000 feet circuit altitude and turn onto downwind, heading 152. Golf Alpha Charlie, request extended downwind, low approach and go around.
Golf Alpha Charlie cleared low approach, runway 33, wind 270 at 13.
Cleared low approach runway 33, then request joining low level right downwind runway 24 for full stop. Golf Alpha Charlie.
Golf Alpha Charlie Roger, from the missed approach, enter right downwind, low level, runway 24.
Roger, thank you. Golf Alpha Charlie. As the wind is now a tailwind, you're travelling more quickly over the ground, giving less time on downwind. We're going to fly further out on the downwind to give you a longer final approach. Keep going until I ask you to turn base. Downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient, instruments in the green, cabin secure. With an extended downwind leg, you won't need to descend like you would with a normal circuit. When turning base, maintain circuit altitude and judge when to begin descending and
my
taking
Lord.
flap visually.
Alright, we are retrying that. I completely missed the downwind part. Because I thought I got crosswind and downwind.
As strong winds cause controllability problems in light aircraft, we can...
Actually, give me 1 second. Okay. Wrong scene. Okay. So I was doing a little bit of digging. I used to have a control on my throttle that would change the propeller angle, but I don't remember what the setting was. So if anybody remembers what the keybind is called in the settings, that would be amazing.
Has rolled to the left. Therefore, apply into-wind aileron control to counter this rolling force. A wind from the left would do the opposite, so left aileron would be used. This works with a strong crosswind from anywhere ahead of the nose. With a crosswind from behind, apply the opposite control input. Nose into wind, turn into wind. Nose out of wind, turn out of wind. We're pointing straight into the wind right now, so we won't apply any control input just yet. Taxi to the left and cross runway 24 to reach the holding point for runway 33. The DA40 has a castering nose wheel, so use brakes to tighten your turn. You're cleared to cross the runway, continue straight on. Now we've turned, the wind is from behind and the right. Nose is out of wind, so we turn out of wind. Apply left aileron. Come to a stop here and we'll talk about the crosswind circuit. As we move around the circuit pattern, the wind correction needed will change after each turn. Today's wind is from 270, marked by your heading book on the HSI. Drift angle is related to your ground speed and the speed of the crosswind component. If travelling at 60 knots ground speed with a 20 knot crosswind, your drift angle will be 20 degrees. Double your ground speed to 120 knots, the drift angle will halve to 10 degrees. By applying a heading correction into wind that is equal to your drift angle, you will fly the required track. Keep your into-wind aileron inputs in whilst accelerating for takeoff, gradually reducing them towards neutral as your speed increases. Golf Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie ready for departure for circuits.
Golf Alpha Charlie cleared line up and takeoff runway 33, wind 270 at 12.
Clear for takeoff runway 33, Golf Alpha Charlie. During the takeoff, apply left aileron, expect the nose to yaw into wind once the nose wheel lifts.
All right, let's do this thing.
The nose is weathercocked into wind, but we're still tracking the centre line as the result of wind drift. Pitch for about 70 knots to get a good climb rate. There are obstacles and hills near to the runway. Flaps up. Make make a left turn to the crosswind leg, heading 245. Level off at 1,000 feet circuit altitude and turn onto downwind, heading 152. Bank angle. Golf Alpha Charlie, request extended downwind, low approach and go around.
Golf Alpha Charlie cleared low approach, runway 33, wind 270 at 13.
Cleared low approach runway 33, then request joining low level right downwind runway 24 for full stop, Golf Alpha Charlie.
Golf Alpha Charlie Roger, from the missed approach, enter right downwind, low level, runway 24.
Roger, thank you, Golf Alpha Charlie. As the wind is now a tailwind, you're travelling more quickly over the ground, giving less time on downwind. We're going to fly further out on the downwind to give you a longer final approach. Keep going until I ask you to turn base. Downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient, instruments in the green, cabin secure. With an extended downwind leg, you won't need to descend like you would with a normal circuit. When turning base, maintain circuit altitude and judge when to begin descending and taking flap visually. Downwind heading 152 to account for drift.
This plane has just got a mind of its own.
Okay, that should be far enough. Turn left onto the base leg. You'll have a tailwind in the turn, so expect to make one continuous turn onto final approach. Keep the turn going and line up with runway 33, remaining mindful of the terrain on final approach. Point the nose to the left of the runway to account for the crosswind, configure as needed. Keep flying the approach and I'll call for the go-around.
Ugh. Does anybody see 33? Also, this propeller is like constantly oversped, and I don't like it. Is that the runway?
Bank angle.
You don't say, Jimbo. It totally is.
Go around, nose to the horizon, full power, and set takeoff flaps.
Let's try this again.
Level off at 500 feet, then make a right turn to track 055. Keep the flaps at takeoff. Keep 500 feet and turn right onto track 055. That's a right downwind for the short runway 24. Downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient, instruments in the green, cabin secure. Bank angle.
Oh, I totally fucked that. Oh my. That's what happens when you fly when it's late. And I'm really not a fan of the... This is a VFR lesson, but you can't see where you're going.
As strong winds cause controllability problems in light aircraft, we can deflect the controls to help us. The wind here at Sombra is about 270 at 15, which is within the 20 knots crosswind limit of the DA40, but still enough to need our attention on the ground and in flight. A strong crosswind blows over the upwind wing and therefore generates lift. The fuselage mostly shields the downwind wing, so this uneven lift causes a downwind banking effect. A crosswind from the right would lift the right wing and potentially have us roll to the left, therefore apply into-wind aileron control to counter this rolling force. A wind from the left would do the opposite, so left aileron would be used. This works with a strong crosswind from anywhere ahead of the nose. With a crosswind from behind, apply the opposite control inputs. Nose into wind, turn into wind. Nose out of wind, turn out of wind. We're pointing straight into the wind right now, so we won't apply any control input just yet. Taxi to the left and cross runway 24 to reach the holding point for runway 33. The DA40 has a castering nose wheel, so use brakes to tighten your turn.
I don't know what to do, chat. That's... like we're at full throttle by the time we get to...
Cleared to cross the runway, continue straight on.
We're going to try and take this a little bit
Now
slower.
we've turned, the wind is from behind and the right. Nose is out of wind, so we turn out of wind. Apply left aileron. Come to a stop here and we'll talk about the crosswind circuit. As we move around the circuit pattern, the wind correction needed will change after each turn. Today's wind is from 270, marked by your heading book on the HSI. Drift angle is related to your ground speed and the speed of the crosswind component. If travelling at 60 knots ground speed with a 20 knot crosswind, your drift angle will be 20 degrees. Double your ground speed to 120 knots, the drift angle will halve to 10 degrees. By applying a heading correction into wind that is equal to your drift angle, you will fly the required track. Keep your into-wind aileron inputs in whilst accelerating for takeoff, gradually reducing them towards neutral as your speed increases. Golf Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie ready for departure for circuits.
Golf Alpha Charlie cleared line up and takeoff runway 33, wind 270 at 12.
Clear for takeoff runway 33, Golf Alpha Charlie. During the takeoff, apply left aileron, expect the nose to yaw into wind once the nose wheel lifts. The nose is weathercocked into wind, but we're still tracking the centre line as the result of wind drift. Pitch for about 70 knots to get a good climb rate. There are obstacles and hills near to the runway. Flaps up. Make a left turn to the crosswind leg, heading 245. Level off at 1,000 feet circuit altitude and turn onto downwind, heading 152. Bank angle. Golf Alpha Charlie request extended downwind, low approach and go around.
Golf
Oh,
Alpha Charlie
Lord.
cleared low approach runway 33, wind 270 at 13.
Cleared
thing
low
just
approach
pitches
runway
straight for the
33,
moon.
then request joining low level right downwind runway 24 for full stop. Golf Alpha Charlie.
Golf Alpha Charlie Roger from the missed approach, enter right downwind, low level runway 24.
Roger, thank you, Golf Alpha Charlie. As the wind is now a tailwind, you're travelling more quickly over the ground, giving less time on downwind. We're going to fly further out on the downwind to give you a longer final approach. Keep going until I ask you to turn base. Downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient, instruments in the green, cabin secure. With an extended downwind leg, you won't need to descend like you would with a normal circuit. When turning base, maintain circuit altitude and judge when to begin descending and taking flap visually. Circuit altitude is 1,000 feet.
Yeah, well, I have no visual this is...
Okay, that should be far enough. Turn left onto the base leg. You'll have a tailwind in the turn, so expect to make one continuous turn onto final approach. Keep the turn going and line up with runway 33, remaining mindful of the terrain on final approach. Point the nose to the left of the runway to account for the crosswind. Configure as needed. Keep flying the approach and I'll call for the go-around. Go around, nose to the horizon, full power, and set takeoff flaps.
Alright, let's follow directions this time.
Level off at 500 feet, then make a right turn to track 055. Keep the flaps at takeoff. Keep 500 feet and turn right onto track 055. That's a right downwind for the short runway 24. Downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient, instruments in the green, cabin secure. For a short field landing, we need to be more accurate with our touchdown and choose an earlier aiming point. Once we're down, apply strong braking to come to a stop in the shortest distance.
Stop climbing, please. I can't even trim it. Like, trim does not exist.
Golf Alpha Charlie ready for base 24, full stop.
Golf Alpha Charlie cleared to land runway 24, wind 270 at 15.
Cleared land 24, Golf Alpha Charlie. Make a right turn onto final for runway 24. Now choose an early aiming point on runway 24, such as the first centerline marking. Get fully configured with full flap and keep the speed back.
Because that's not... Oh, maybe it is.
Make a positive touchdown and get onto the brake straight away. Aim to stop before the second exit on the right.
Oh, talk about airliner landing, but this is silly. Yes, sir. I'm tracking away. Oh, right. We wanted to stop.
Great. Now for when taxiing in, remember to use your crosswind controls again.
Love how it doesn't even give us a score anymore, but I deserve a 0. I'm gonna keep practicing those off stream, but are y'all gonna give me an actual VFR flight? Oh, I got a tail dragger now. How do you land one of these?
We're flying the Cap 10 in the north of Sweden, following the Luleälven River and Highway 97 towards Luleå. The time is just after 11 p.m. This is the land of the midnight sun. Keeping 2,000 feet altitude, follow the highway, keeping it on your left. We're going to explore how we can deal with in-flight malfunctions. When things don't go to plan, having a structured approach makes your decision-making easier. When an incident occurs in flight, the first step is always to take a moment to correctly fly the aeroplane. Depending on what happened, this could be easy or difficult. For example, if you're straight and level and you have a radio issue, remaining straight and level would not be too difficult. Whereas a failure during an approach may require a go-round. As such, the very first step after an issue is to aviate. Once the flight path is under control, we navigate.
Aviate,
We ensure
navigate,
we're on a safe
communicate.
flight path, perhaps following a procedure, or to change our route to account for the failure. The third initial action is to communicate. If appropriate, tell ATC that you're encountering difficulties so they can offer assistance. Aviate, navigate, communicate.
Yeah, boy.
These three things
Really?
performed in order
What friend?
will keep you safe in the short term. Now it's time to figure out what to do next. One such process for decision making is DODAR. We start with diagnose. Make sure we've correctly identified exactly what has happened.
Dodar,
Then
diagnose,
we gather
orient.
our options.
Oh, options.
Can we continue as planned, or do we need to divert? Next, we decide on our most suitable option. Once a decision has been reached, we can assign tasks, such as informing ATC and setting our avionics. Finally, we review our decision to check if anything has changed. You can use DODAR either flying solo or as a crew, so it has broad use and can be applied to whatever kind
This
of
thing
flying
trims
you're
out
doing.
beautifully.
Carry on flying towards Luleå.
I'm gonna pretend I know where that is. I can stick my head out the window. What was that?
I'm not sure what that was, but we might have hit a bird. Aviate, keep us flying safely straight and level at 2,000 feet. The ASI's dropped to 0.
Oh, we have 0 airspeed.
Navigate, continue to follow the road and river. Communicate. We don't need any immediate ATC assistance, so we won't make any radio calls just yet. Now we've completed our initial actions, we can shift our focus onto what comes next. Diagnose. It appears to be a bird strike which has damaged the pitot tube and therefore our airspeed indication. I can see some damage down my side on the right flap. It might be worth testing it so we know what we're dealing with. Bring the speed back to what feels like slow flight.
This feels pretty slow.
Now that we've slowed, try and set takeoff flaps. It's giving us roll to the right, so it looks like it was bird damage to the right flap. It feels like we're getting slow. Increase power and accelerate back up to what feels like normal flight speed.
Luca, I remember Luca. We following the wrong river.
Retract the flaps again now to stop the roll, and we'll talk about our options. Options. Indicated airspeed is a crucial parameter for safe flight, so we wouldn't be likely to continue a long cross-country trip. Without our flaps, it limits the airfields we can land at, as without them we'll have a longer landing distance.
That's one.
Luleå is just up ahead and will be an ideal place to land. Decide. Landing at Luleå seems like a safe option, as continuing would not be easy, plus there may be other damage we're yet to discover. Assign. I'll let air traffic know that we'd like to land. Luleå Tower, Sierra Echo, Foxtrot, Sierra Alpha.
Sierra Sierra Alpha Luleå Tower, pass your message.
Sierra Sierra Alpha, Mundry Cap 10, 2,000 feet VFR at Unbyn with an airspeed indication problem and no landing flaps. Request join and landing.
Sierra Sierra Alpha, Roger, clear to join straight in for runway 14, QNH 1013.
1013, straight in runway 14, Sierra Sierra Alpha.
Let's go!
Review. Alright, we can't use the flaps, but the runway here is over 3,000 meters, so landing distance is no problem at all. The challenge is going to be the increased landing speed due to lack of flaps, combined with the absence of our indicated airspeed. You'll have to use feel, sound and experience to judge your airspeed for landing. Don't get too slow as you'll risk a stall, and the runway is long enough for a fast landing.
I know the last
Stall
name.
warning will still work as usual, which will be your last line of defense.
Sierra Sierra Alpha cleared to land, runway 14, wind calm.
Get us down safely and come to a stop on the runway.
That is really cool. Unfortunately, did you hear about that plane crash that happened in Kananaskis? Oh shit! That was going so well. No. All right, woo. That was. I like this one. This one's kind of cool. All right, then this is gonna be the last one we do tonight before I call it a night for stream, and we will visit the rest of the VFR flights tomorrow. But we'll get this one first. Don't you worry.
We're flying the Cap 10 in the north of Sweden.
So a good buddy of mine slash ex-colleague was one of the two brothers in the plane that was flying to Kananaskis that crashed. And I had no idea how he had passed. But a friend of one of our mutual friends was posting about him passing, and it was like, oh no, it was kind of sad. And turns out he was in the wreckage, so that was a bit of a downer for the evening.
Following the Luleälven River and Highway 97 towards Luleå. The time is just after 11 p.m. This is the land of the midnight sun. Keeping 2,000 feet altitude, follow the highway, keeping it on your left. We're going to explore how we can deal with in-flight malfunctions. When things don't go to plan, having a structured approach makes your decision-making easier.
It does blow, man.
When
It
an
was
incident occurs in flight, the first step is always to take a moment to correctly fly the aeroplane. Depending on what happened, this could be easy or difficult. For example, if you're straight and level and you have a radio issue, remaining straight and level would not be too difficult. Whereas a failure during an approach may require a go-around. As such, the very first step after an issue is to aviate. Once the flight path is under control, we navigate. We ensure that we're on a safe flight path, perhaps following a procedure, or to change our route to account for the failure. The third initial action is to communicate. If appropriate, tell ATC that you're encountering difficulties so they can offer assistance. Aviate, navigate, communicate. These three things performed in order will keep you safe in the short term. Now it's time to figure out what to do next. One such process for decision making is DODAR. We start with diagnose. Make sure we've correctly identified exactly what has happened. Then we gather our options. Can we continue as planned, or do we need to divert? Next, we decide on our most suitable option. Once a decision has been reached, we can assign tasks, such as informing ATC and setting our avionics. Finally, we review our decision to check if anything has changed. You can use DODAR either flying solo or as a crew, so it has broad use and can be applied to whatever kind of flying you're doing. Carry on flying towards Lulio.
Woo! Ink. So airspeed is dead. We still can fly the plane. So we do
I'm
so.
not sure what that was, but we might have hit a bird. Aviate. Keep us flying safely straight and level at 2,000 feet. The ASI's drop to 0. Navigate. Continue to follow the road and river.
Done deal, bud. We're not panicking.
Communicate. We don't need any immediate ATC assistance, so we won't make any radio calls just yet. Now we've completed our initial actions, we can shift our focus onto what comes next. Diagnose. It appears to be a bird strike which has damaged the pitot tube and therefore our airspeed indication. I can see some damage down my side on the right flap. It might be worth testing it so we know what we're dealing with. Bring the speed back to what feels like slow flight. Now that we've slowed, try and set takeoff flaps. It's giving us roll to the right, so it looks like it was bird damage to the right flap. Increase power and accelerate back up to what feels like normal flight speed. track the flaps again now to stop the roll, and we'll talk about our options. Options. Indicated airspeed is a crucial parameter for safe flight, so we wouldn't be likely to continue a long cross-country trip. Without our flaps, it limits the airfields we can land at, as without them we'll have a longer landing distance. Luleå is just up ahead and will be an ideal place to land. Decide. Landing at Luleå seems like a safe option, as continuing would not be easy, plus there may be other damage we're yet to discover. Assign. I'll let air traffic know that we'd like to land. Luleå Tower, Sierra Echo, Foxtrot, Sierra Alpha.
Sierra Sierra Alpha Luleå Tower, pass your message.
Sierra Sierra Alpha, Mundry Cap 10, 2000 feet VFR at Unbyen, with an airspeed indication problem and no landing flaps. Request join and landing.
Sierra Sierra Alpha, Roger, clear to join straight in for runway 14, QNH 1013.
1013, straight in runway 14, Sierra Sierra Alpha. Review. Alright, we can't use the flaps, but the runway here is over 3,000 meters, so landing distance is no problem at all. The challenge is going to be the increased landing speed due to lack of flaps, combined with the absence of our indicated airspeed. You'll have to use feel, sound and experience to judge your airspeed for landing. Don't get too slow, as you'll risk a stall, and the runway is long enough for a fast landing. The stall warning will still work as usual, which will be your last line of defense.
Sierra Sierra Alpha, cleared to land, runway 14, wind calm.
Get us down safely and come to a stop on the runway.
I never fully understood the tail dragger physics, so hopefully we can get it better this time. I would rather be too high than too low. Whoa. Be smart, be smart, be smart. Gently. Release. We're just gonna glide it. Or float it.
It feels like we're getting slow. Great job. We used the initial actions at first, followed by a safe decision to land.
Phew! A little on the rough side. Also not knowing, forgetting that the brakes really work. But we did it. So what do we have in store for us for the next episode of Can Ships Fly? Mountain flying. Well, yeah, that was a blast. Thank you very much for hanging out. Don't forget, if you guys want to catch this, or if you guys see this in the future, don't forget to like the VOD, leave comments, suggestions, tips below. If you so feel, hit the subscribe button, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.